All right, Greg, showtime.
Oh, okay. How do I look?
Your hair looks great.
Oh, great.
Maybe someday you'll be tall enough to reach this.
Thanks for the support.
Oh, have a great show, little guy.
Thank you, dear. I really gotta stop hiring tall assistants. Hi, I'm Greg Gutfeld, now with 20% more fructose. Here's what's coming up. Ted Cruz and a porn star. A story not as exciting as it sounds. Speakers invited to discuss free speech, and you won't believe what happened next. Well, actually, sadly, you probably will. And the Valentine's Day debate to end all Valentine's Day debates. Actually, this one will probably be forgotten quickly. I've missed you, America. Let's get started. It's late, and I have to bury the drifter in my trunk. All right. Enough applause, I know. Let's welcome tonight's guest. He's a Hollywood legend like Brando, Burton, and Charles Nelson Riley. He plays Avi on the Showtime series Ray Donovan. He's the legendary actor Steven Bauer. Yeah. When he's not dancing shirtless in back alleys for Nicorette money, he hosts Fox and Friends Weekend. It's Tucker Carlson. He irritates more bowels than a plate of Chipotle. British journalist and Twitter terror, Milo Yiannopoulos. Her idea of a balanced breakfast is a shot and a beer. It's the drunk Joanne Nosuchinsky. And finally, she's a walking storm cloud. It's National Review reporter Katherine Timpf, miserable as always. But first, in a moment of supreme cowardice, Ted Cruz's campaign pulled an ad after they found out the actress in it had done softcore porn. Run it, Clive.
I voted for a guy who was a Tea Party hero on the campaign trail, and then he went to D.C. and played patty cake with Chuck Schumer and cut a deal on amnesty.
Does that make you angry?
Angry? Makes me feel dumb for trusting him.
Maybe you should vote for more than just a pretty face next time.
That's Amy Lindsay.
That's her.
She had starred in classics like Kinky Sex Club, Insatiable Obsession, and Sex Spa 2, which I hear not as good as Sex Spa 1. I never saw these pictures. I only watched Disney films while volunteering in soup kitchens for sick orphans. But get this, a reporter recognized her. His wife must be really proud. Apparently, the Daily Caller reporter Steve Guest has a long-standing hobby that involves thin plots and lots of Kleenex. Cruz's campaign defends pulling the ad, saying had they known about Amy's past, she wouldn't have been hired. Well, that's Christian. So here's a woman who turned her life around, if you consider doing campaign ads a step up from porn, which I don't, and you punish her. The message seems to be if you're doing pornography now, don't bother stopping because you're never going to get a second chance in life. You are damaged for good. Anyway, she did far worse than smut. She once starred in Star Trek Voyager, which is essentially soft porn for finger-sniffing dorks cloaked in a bedbug-ridden fart blanket. And compare what she does to present-day crud. Have you seen HBO Girls? It makes softcore pornography seem like the 700 Club. And really, who does Amy remind you of anyway? She was lost, and now she's found. She saw the light after living in darkness. She sounds like Donald Trump, doesn't she? Once to the left of Harry Reid, he's now a fire-breathing righty. He's your daddy. If we accept that he's capable of change, then why not Amy? Trump should hire her. Seriously. But if Cruz had any guts, he should laud Amy for changing her life. But he won't, not with the religious vote in play. But if you're Christian, you got to ask, what would Jesus do? After all, he did forgive prostitutes. But here, political ambition outweighs following your faith. Poor Amy. She's 2016's Mary Magdalene, and we just aren't that forgiving anymore. Period. Thank you. right. I want to go to the actor first. Joanne. No, I'm kidding. Steven. One of the greatest actors ever. She was an actress. She was doing a role, and now she's being punished for actually doing something better than just a role.
Poor thing. I feel for her, and I also think it's a big mistake by the Cruz campaign because I like Ted Cruz as a person, but he's I think he's got people working for him that are a little bit too high and mighty.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the right approach to this country and to this society. Firing or pulling an ad because the girl did some soft stuff.
Let's face it, you've done far worse.
I've done harder stuff.
Yeah, you've done a lot harder stuff. I saw those amateur videos you did in the 70s. I still own a few, by the way.
But I wore a mask.
Yeah, you I wore a mask when I watched it. Just to keep clean.
Rubber gloves.
Yes. Tucker, wouldn't a faithful Christian like yourself embrace this woman and proclaim it and make it a good thing?
Well, of course. By the way, I don't know if you were joking in the monologue. I agree with every single word of that. This woman is totally no, I don't know if it was ironic or not. This woman is totally sincere.
I was sincere.
Good for you, then. She's a Cruz fan, and if you're the candidate, and the rap against you is that you will do or say anything to win votes, that you're kind of hollow and craven, this doesn't help.
Yeah.
Actually, your reputation. By the way, it was my reporter who found this.
Yeah.
He heard about it from a friend of his.
Okay.
He's not familiar with her work. That's what he told me.
So he's not the aficionado of softcore pornography.
That's what he claims.
Which is strange because who watches softcore pornography right now?
People at Marriott.
Yeah, people at the Marriott. I thought the Marriott banned it. That's why I stopped going there. Milo, don't you agree with me that this is a great opportunity for Donald Trump to hire this woman, put it, as you like to call it, Daddy.
Daddy. Don't be a conservative. Call him Daddy.
Okay, all right. Don't you think he should do that? Is he missing an opportunity?
Well, I mean, the guy was born in Canada. He's a softcore American. What right has he got to talk to anybody about softcore anything? I mean, the guy's such a hypocrite. It's cruel, it's mean, and worse, it's slut-shaming.
Yeah,
it's slut-shaming.
Yes, it is.
This woman's trying to turn her life around. I agree completely. You know, there's really no problem with... This is the American dream, isn't it?
It is!
You do what you can, you hustle, you make it. One day, you have the glittering vision of an appearance for 4.5 seconds in a Ted Cruz campaign video. and because you once smooched on script.
Yes.
Give me a break. I mean, Hollywood actresses have done worse things in blockbuster movies than this girl probably did in her videos. I find it appalling.
I'm not kidding. In Girls, which is HBO, the sex scenes are unbelievable. I watched them so many times, they disgust me. But you know what you're right? It is the American dream to do amateur porn and then turn your life around.
Yes.
Look at Kim Kardashian. Look at Paris Hilton. They all started with amateur porn. Kat, I want to go to you in the corner. You said earlier you had very strong feelings about this, but I don't know what kind of feelings they are because, frankly, I can't read you.
Okay, yeah. I'm going to take that as a compliment. But I am so sick of this unnecessary prudishness, okay? This is why young people don't want to vote for conservatives because it's saying, like, only lame people allowed. They're actually saying that, oh, this happened because we didn't vet these people. What would that vetting process even look like? Like, oh, like, I see here that you did not save your first kiss for marriage, so you can't come. Or like, just yesterday, you were seen with somebody who's reportedly on birth control, so I feel like you need to leave as soon as possible. Come on, get over it, get a life. This is pathetic, and I'm humiliated for everyone involved.
All right, well, you're used to being humiliated. Joanne, hopefully you will never have to enter the world of adult entertainment, but wouldn't you be happy to know that if you do, there might be a way out for you?
Of course, definitely. I like options, Greg.
Yes, you do.
Cruz had to pull this. He had to. When you are endorsed by the head of the Family Research Council, you have to. But that's not a bad thing because Amy is doing very well for herself.
That's true.
You will now have the career you always wanted. You weren't going to get it with the Cruz ad, but now you will because you have all the exposure in the world.
She will get a much bigger contract from Vivid Entertainment. If you're laughing, you know what that is, and shame on you. Seriously, no one should know what Vivid Entertainment is. All right, Trump says he pulled a negative ad hitting Ted Cruz, and the ad never aired publicly, but our investigative team, i.e. my Swedish intern Sven, was able to track it down in between back rubs. Let's run a bit.
did that snake come from?
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message.
Good ad. Very good ad. But now Trump's running a new ad in South Carolina, and it's a real one, actually, hitting immigration.
Jess Shaw was a 17-year-old football star who was gunned down just outside his home. His killer, an illegal immigrant gang member who just got out of prison. Jess's dad, Jamil, is supporting Donald Trump for president because he knows he will end illegal immigration.
Trump is the only one saying, you're going to be dealt with. We're going to enforce that. We're going to enforce that. That's a beautiful thing. I believe Donald Trump wants to make us great again, and he loves America.
All right, Steven,
He's so smart. He's so smart. He really knows his audience.
Yeah, he does. He does. And this was his topic, and he took it and he ran. I'm not even sure he knew it was going to be as big as it was. I
think he had a hunch, and he went with it. He went huge with it, and because that's his way.
Yeah. I have a hunch too, but that's why I wear sweaters. Tucker, does he even need ads at this point? He's on TV 24/7.
No, but you can't reiterate the point enough that it's not just about his hair and his wealth and his flamboyance and his hilarious attacks on the other candidates. He actually has some positions that nobody else is talking about.
Right.
And that need to be talked about. Contrast this to the way the Democrats are wooing black votes in South Carolina. Yeah. Right? They're saying, oh, I've got the Congressional Black Caucus and some elderly guy you've never heard of is on my side.
Yeah.
Trump is saying, this is a direct threat to you and your family. The elites are letting in people who are undercutting your wages, and I'm against it. Which is a more resonant message? The latter.
Yeah, that's true. Milo, I think you have a keen sense of Trump's appeal because you call him daddy.
I do.
And the thing is, I believe that Sanders and Trump...
It's not dark.
It's so dark.
I'm Trump sexual.
I know you are. I know you are. You call him daddy, and I think this is prophetic because I think Sanders is, for the left, the daddy of nurture, and for the right, Trump is the daddy who's stern. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. I mean, look, any political movement that, any political personality that attracts from frat boys to veterans to Ann Coulter to, sassy gay British columnists, there's something interesting. There's something interesting going on there.
Yes, that's true.
And it's something that the majority of conservative media would rather sneer and scoff about, have front covers of their magazines saying, oh no, we can't possibly endorse this, horrible populist, sleazy character. Well, I'm sorry, but this person has captured the energy and imagination of conservatives under 50, and conservative media has forgotten how to talk to those people. It doesn't even like them on the rare occasion it notices they exist. I try to write for people who are under 50, unlike most conservative journalists, and they
thank you.
And they love him. They love him.
Yeah, and do you know who else conservatives loved? Do you know who else? Adolf Stevens, by neighbor. He was a really great guy. Joanne, thoughts?
I think, too, what people are really responding to, we talk about the PC bull, but he doesn't have the filter, which we all like. That's why we all go to bars.
Yeah.
We drink a lot, and we love a crowd, and then we start saying things that are on our mind, even though it's offensive, and then we just, more shots and more energy, and that's what a Trump rally is. That's his town halls. People love it.
You speak from experience, except you usually drink in empty bars or alone.
Oh, I still talk to many people.
That is true. Last word to you, Kat. Is this scaring you, or is it encouraging the fact that he could be the nominee?
Well, I'm a libertarian, so I hate them all. But, I disagree with him completely with this immigration because, I'm a reasonably compassionate human being. But that was a great ad for what he's trying to do. When that family agreed to talk, I'm sure he was just like, yes, yes, yes. And it really worked for what he's trying to do, which is scary. But yeah, I'm always scared.
That's true. That's what the pills are for, Kat. Remember, I told you to keep taking them.
Yeah.
Double it up this time. Still ahead. Twitter's new Trust and Safety Council. Is it Thought Police or is it Thought Police? Yes, I'm aware I just said the same thing. I have a problem. But first, the things I learned while watching last week's Clinton-Sanders debate. I learned I have a crack in my ceiling, and I really need to vacuum all the glitter from last week's party.
She talked about getting the approval or the support or the mentoring of Henry Kissinger. Henry Kissinger is not my friend. Kissinger's actions, Henry Kissinger.
Well, I know journalists have asked who you do listen to on foreign policy, and we have yet to know who that is.
Well, it ain't Henry Kissinger, that's
fine.
for sure.
That's fine.
Oh, dear.
It's true. The Democratic debate was as boring as watching your phone recharge. But remember, it's the boring stuff that kills you. Like socialism, it puts you to sleep with its deadliness. The big revelation, hardline progressives like Sanders say this country's screwed after 7 years of hardline progressivism. Sanders sounded like a right-winger bashing his own agenda and Obama. Hillary, dressed like a jar of mustard, called him on it.
The kind of criticism that we've heard from Senator Sanders about our president, I expect from Republicans. I do not expect from someone running for the Democratic nomination to succeed President Obama.
Madam Secretary, that is a low blow.
When asked what part of government they would cut, both couldn't bring up anything. It was like asking which limb they would like removed. Hillary talked about the poor coal miners. Why are they poor, Hillary? Because the White House targeted the coal industry for 2 terms. Sanders used the phrase over-policing, unleashing a long segment bashing law enforcement and incarceration. To them, the men in blue are far worse than jihadists in black. As for terror, Sanders spent more time bashing Henry Kissinger, his followers don't even know who he is, than ISIS. The best part, Sanders actually lost delegates to Hillary, even though he won New Hampshire. There's your redistribution of wealth, Bernie. That's socialism. All right. Thank you. Steven, you're Cuban, or so you claim.
Yes. Still Cuban.
You're still Cuban?
Yeah.
I'm looking at you, you Cuban. You're a Cuban cigar. Socialist running for president. This has got to drive you crazy.
It's almost inconceivable to me in this country, with the Constitution, the love of the Constitution, and the fight for democracy, and the many, many glaring examples of the failures of socialism around the world, that we would actually encourage this man, and that the young people who are following him, they're completely enamored of his ideas and his thoughts without knowing what they mean.
Yeah, I really feel like when I see young Sanders supporters, I think they need to be deprogrammed. Like in the 70s when you hired somebody to kidnap your kid from the Krishnas. Not that that didn't happen to me. Tucker, the whole argument about socialism is that it hasn't been perfected yet. If we just do it again, it'll be better.
Let's just try it again. I kind of like Sanders for one reason. He blows up the idea of identity politics. The premise of identity politics is you vote for someone who looks like you, who shares your immutable characteristics. Here's the oldest guy ever to run for anything. Yes. Being supported by children. I mean, I thought he was going to go after Spiro Agnew in this debate. Yes. Henry Kissinger? Like, what the hell?
That Ed Muskie.
It's a playable Ed Muskie. He wasn't crying. He wasn't crying. I mean, it really is. It's actually kind of beautiful. There's a universalist quality to his insanity. Anybody can get on board.
Killer Mike. Killer Mike is supporting Bernie Sanders. That's really interesting. And I think you're right. Sanders' last ad was amazing on identity politics about unity, was an incredibly powerful ad.
And he never mentions it. You go to Bernie rally, he doesn't say anything about any of the trendy, fashionable nonsense. It's only economics.
Yeah, all right, Milo. Where do you fall on Sanders?
Well, this Democratic debate was a debate between, you know, a woman who is too old and confused to use an iPhone and a man whose credit is too bad to get one. The problem with both of them is that they just have so little grasp, really, on, you know, on any kind of economic reality. And for all of this talk about Sanders having lots of young supporters, yes, he does, but it's a tiny sliver of the population. It doesn't compare to the popular support for Daddy. And actually, what you just... I'm just saying, and what you discover is that these voters are actually quite politically promiscuous. They don't necessarily care too much about policy. People don't vote for Trump or Sanders because of anything specific they say. They vote to thumb their nose up at the establishment, to stick 2 fingers up at the, you know, the whole Washington thing. So my hope is that Sanders is going to cost Hillary a fortune, then drop out, and then all his supporters will come over to Daddy, and we'll win.
Come over to Daddy. Come to Daddy. That should have been his motto from day one. All right, Kat. I seem to see that Sanders and Trump are kind of the same thing. They're both autocrats, aren't they? They're for a centralized, planned government. As a libertarian, you must find that disturbing.
Yes, I find it disturbing. I hate socialism, but I actually, obviously, but I actually find myself liking Sanders when I watch these debates just because I'm overwhelming just hatred for Hillary Clinton. This blinds me to everything else. I had to stop watching when she said, I care about criminal justice reform too because I gave the first speech of my campaign about it. It's like, yeah, you also spent the entire 90s being super prison happy, and now you're like, there's too many people in prison. Well, yeah, lady, you put them there. But cool speech, though. Right. I'm sure they're all like, oh, my life's ruined, but I liked your nice speech. I'm like shaking with hatred.
I can tell. You're shaking with
Hillary.
something. Yeah. All right. Joanne.
Yeah.
I saw progressives condemning Obama's policies and then basically pushing for more. That's like, saying you have emphysema and saying, you should really smoke.
Definitely. It seems counterintuitive, doesn't it?
Yes.
But the world is full of hypocrisies, and I sometimes do support those. But I have a great analogy for millennials.
Oh, excellent.
Okay? Socialism is like my crappy selfie. Okay? Then you take Instagram filter Bernie.
Yes.
You put it over the crappy selfie. That is socialism. And suddenly, I get 1 million likes.
You do.
But really, what I need for that photo to be good is Photoshop, which is Trump.
Yeah. Wow.
There you go.
That's an impressive metaphor. We should leave on that note.
Write that down.
All right, up next, Joanne and Katherine, the cutthroat Valentine's Day debate you never knew you wanted. It's the topic special report refused to cover. Welcome back to the 2016 Valentine's Day debate. I'm your moderator, William Devane. So in a perfect world, this is how men would react when they hear that it's Valentine's Day. But in reality, this is how men usually react on February 14th. Clearly, it is painful for that man. Here to debate whether we should all embrace or dread this holiday, Joanne Nosuchinsky and Katherine Timpf. Ladies, that should help with their poor self-esteem. So the country reportedly spends $2 billion on flowers, 1.7 on candy, and exchanges 180 million greeting cards written by inmates, I'll have you know, on Valentine's Day. Joanne, I'm going to go to you first. Isn't this great for the so-called economy?
Yes, Greg, economic growth tends to slow in the winter months, so we need this holiday in mid-February. And spending money on presents for your loved ones, family members, friends, it shows that you not only love them, but you love your country as well. God bless America.
Oh, that's nice. Just curious, Kat, how many hours of Law & Order reruns do you watch alone in your apartment?
I've moved on to Toddlers and Tiaras now.
Oh, that's fantastic. All right, excellent. You're a very sad person. All right, we actually have some questions from viewers. Here's Greta from Wisconsin.
The country's marriage rate is at an all-time low, yet half of all marriage proposals happen on St. Valentine's Day. So isn't this holiday crucial to preserving the American family unit?
Kat, a question about units.
Yeah, well, you know what? Everyone better just enjoy the bliss now because it's all downhill from there, Greg. According to a 2013 study, happily married couples gained more weight over a 4-year period than unhappily married couples. So if you got engaged, congratulations, but you're going to have either a failed marriage or a fat marriage.
So bitter.
All right, let's take another viewer question. Here's a woman named Megan from New York.
According to a 2016 report, about 11,000 children are conceived each year on Valentine's Day, born the following November. I, myself, am a November baby. Figure it out. Wouldn't you say this benefits our country? Because children are our future.
Oh, so true. I've never heard that before, Joanne. What do you make of this?
Yes, that was a great question, Megan. Thank you for that. You know, population growth encourages economic growth. So we are just birthing a great labor force, which will be a very good thing years to come. And also, conceiving a child in love, well, you're just setting that baby up for a lifetime of success.
Nope. Nope. Be conceived out of love is making us weak. We need people to be conceiving babies on strong days like the victory at Yorktown anniversary.
Excellent. You know, using that logic, you should be conceived on Donald Trump's birthday.
Yes, here I are.
Yes. Imagine how strong. That would be a winner. That child would never lose. All right, final viewer question is from Sean from Long Island.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. All right, a recent poll found that 53% of women would break up with their boyfriend if they don't get a gift for Valentine's Day. So, do you feel those women are making the right decision? Yeah, hell yeah. As a matter of fact, tell Cheapskate to hit the road. Bye-bye.
I love how Sean introduces himself because we don't know who he is, and then he answers his own damn question.
Yeah, but you know what? I have to disagree with Sean because you don't want to be alone like this one. Don't break up with them. You'll end up like this.
Well, Katherine?
Well, you know what, Greg?
Yeah.
It's 2016, and if women want gifts, they can buy them for themselves. After the show, I'm going to personally go buy myself a nice diamond ring at K Jewelers. K Jewelers. Every kiss begins with K.
Did you just do an advertisement for K Jewelers?
No, I just think it's really impressive that since opening in 1916, they've gone from one store to 900 convenient locations nationwide.
What is this?
Every kiss begins with a K, or if you're racist, KKK. Closing statements, Joanne?
Yes, thank you, Greg. In the great words of Tina Turner, what's love got to do with it? Everything. Thank you. God bless America.
Wow. I feel like Joanne has fallen for a lot of online scams from Nigeria.
Oh, no, they're not scams.
Oh, no, they're not.
I'll be getting a check in a few weeks.
Excellent. Kat, powerful stuff coming up?
Look, do what you want, but remember, sometimes people buy flowers for other people because they feel bad that they're cheating on them.
That's something to think about. That's why I don't give flowers. I want my wife to think I'm totally faithful. Think. Well, thank you, ladies. I think we've learned very little here. Up next, college campus chaos. Black Lives Matter voters against Trump supporters. What could possibly go wrong? But first, here's what our studio audience will be receiving tonight.
Members of tonight's studio audience will receive a free copy of Trace Gallagher's Trace Gallagher. Tired of not being able to effectively trace your favorite watermelon smashing funny man? In this DVD box set, one of TV's premier newsmen will teach you how to trace the legendary comedian. Worry no more with Trace Gallagher's Trace Gallagher.
Attention, coddled co-eds. This entire segment may be offensive to you, so here's your trigger warning. This week at Rutgers University, which I believe is in New Jersey, who knows, a guest on our panel tonight gave a speech. Milo Yiannopoulos was invited there at Rutgers to speak about how the progressive left is destroying education. While on stage, he suggested that any student who requests trigger warnings in safe spaces should be immediately expelled. Let's take a look at how the crowd reacted.
They have demonstrated that they are incapable of exposing themselves to new ideas. They have demonstrated that they are incapable of engaging in the humble pursuit of knowledge.
This man represents hatred!
It's the world. It's the world in a microcosm. That is everything that you need to know about the world. Black Lives Matter, Trump, Trump, Trump. Black Lives, I mean, why don't we just, that's it. All right, Milo.
I mean, Trump won, so yeah. Truth and justice always prevails in the end. The Trump chants did beat out the Black Lives Matter chants, so I was very happy about that.
Did you know this was going to happen?
Everywhere I go becomes a bit of a mini sensation these days, and I think it's my natural humility.
Yes.
You know, I tend to bring the internet to life in my audiences. You know, so I get the Black Lives Matter, I get the feminists, I get the Trump supporters. You know, my fans are very sort of a wonderful dysfunctional coalition of people. Anyway, so yeah, I was making what I thought was a relatively uncontroversial point, which is that universities should be centres of learning. Yeah. And this was apparently enough for these feminists to say this man spews hatred and smear themselves with red blood. Assault somebody afterwards, and then Black Lives Matter started stopping people getting home when they're outside, which nobody has footage of. But yeah, just absolutely crazy. I mean, American university campuses are nuts.
So here's the thing, Tucker. I believe that what Milo is doing is not a speech, it's performance art. He is actually proving his premise by simply showing up. He actually instigates the problem that he's talking about, right?
It doesn't take much. These people have a hair trigger. Smearing red paint on their faces? What?
We hope it's red paint.
I kind of like it.
And you heard because
isn't that like a directed? Isn't that like culture appropriation for the American Indians? Isn't that
Red Indians?
Yeah.
And they were doing Black Power as well, weren't they? With the red faces like this.
And what about the people who can't afford paint? They're at home.
They spontaneously bleed.
No, they're spontaneous. That's it.
Like
that's
stigmata.
it. Yes, stigmata.
I want to ask the janitor who had to clean that up. How
well,
privileged
that's the story.
I mean, really, that's the height of entitlement, to not clean up your mess.
That is so true. They're like rock stars trashing hotel rooms, or legendary actors, Steven.
I've never known an actor to.
By the way, we put you at the Hyatt for a reason.
No, I've never been there.
You wrote your initials on the wall, and that wasn't blood. Hey, when you were in college, did you ever? I mean, what is happening? You were in college in the '80s, I imagine.
You know, I was in college at a time when people were actually learning something.
Yes,
and that's a long time ago, and just shows how old I am. But what's happened is that the educators, the people, the professors have. I don't know where they came from. They came from another generation.
They were students.
Yeah.
You know what it is? It's like a virus that's just passed down.
It just perpetuates this
and then these
mindset.
These kids will have no discernible talents, so they'll have to become those professors.
And they're going to be voters soon. Which is really scary.
Kat, you've been following this stuff a lot. What's your take on this? Surprised, disappointed, aroused?
You know, everybody knows that the best way to get people to take you seriously and your point of view seriously is to just smear a bunch of fake blood on your face and start screaming. It's very intellectual. I think that's what Trump should start doing in the debates if he wants to win, if Cruz attacks him. Just smear blood on his face, start screaming, and then Cruz will say, can't argue with that, and then boom, he's president.
There you go. See, we learned something there. Very little, actually. But we learned something. Okay, we learned nothing. Up next, we're going to talk about Twitter's new safety council that cracks down on so-called harmful speech. And James Woods launched this $10 million defamation suit against an anonymous Twitter user who called him a cocaine addict. Will Twitter be forced to reveal the identity of that user? And is it Joanne? That's next. They're wheeling and dealing to prevent hurt feelings. This week, Twitter announced the creation of a trust and safety council to ensure users, quote, feel safe expressing themselves. What? The council's comprised of over 40, mostly liberal organizations, including the Anti-Defamation League, GLAAD, and something called the Dangerous Speech Project, which sounds like the name of my Fish tribute band. While proponents say the council will help Twitter prevent harassment and bullying, critics argue it can be used to squash certain political viewpoints, like mine, and even censor free speech. And another Twitter free speech news, actor and my Pilates partner, James Woods, stepped closer to unmasking a Twitter user who called him a cokehead last year Woods sued him for defamation. The anonymous defendant tried to get the $10 million suit dismissed, but the judge said the case can proceed, and everyone celebrated with an 8-ball. I'm joking. Don't sue me. All right, Steven, what's happening?
Everybody knows nobody uses cocaine anymore.
That's
so the suit has got to be.
And you are literally in Scarface.
Yes, in Scarface, and I can tell you that it's been about 35 years.
Yes, yes. You don't even remember Scarface.
No, but the other thing is about Jimmy, and I can call him Jimmy because I know him. He's a very big brainy guy.
Yeah.
And he's very courageous, and he says things that people don't like to hear. Yeah. So it makes sense that someone would maybe overhear him and accuse him of doing some drug.
Yeah. That's so true.
Because he's smart.
No, it's because he's conservative, and everybody thinks you're on drugs. You have to be on. If you're conservative, you're on drugs in Hollywood. That is. Tucker, thoughts on this? Should it be anonymous?
Yeah, I mean, I'm all for privacy, but what really strikes me is the assault on free speech by the left. This is a huge change. When I was a kid, I'm not that old, liberals were flaky and they were into macrobiotic food and all yoga and all that stuff, but in the end, they really kind of did support your right to say something they disagreed with. Now they don't, and that's where the conversation ends. You can't even have a conversation with someone who doesn't acknowledge your right to have a divergent view. That becomes fascism. That is actually a threat to America, for real. Like, all the other crap aside, that is the core of it. They threaten that threat.
No, you're right, though. The worst thing a leftist was guilty of was, like, buying a natural deodorant that didn't work.
Right, and it never did work.
Yeah, it never did work. It never did work, but we loved him for it anyway. Milo, what do you make of this safety council? I think it's directed at you.
No, it's literally all about me.
Yes,
it is. I'm why it happened.
Yes.
And you know how I know this is there's this crazy woman called Anita Sarkeesian from Feminist Frequency, this far-left, wacky video games critic who would never have been on there if it hadn't been for me, and me getting unverified because I got the wrong opinions on Twitter. They took my check mark away. Can you believe that?
No.
It's like buying a business class ticket and then you get on the plane and they tell you to turn right. I felt disgusting for weeks.
What was it like back there in the unverified section?
It's awful. The food is terrible.
It's like a cattle car.
No, I mean, you're absolutely right. It is Orwellian, and it's terrifying. They've started to give, ideological slaps on the wrist, these networks. And then you've got Facebook teaming up with Merkel in Germany to censor discussion about immigration. Perfectly reasonable, respectable mainstream opinions about the 1.5 million Muslims that are coming into Germany. And Facebook says, Angela, you just tell us, and within 24 hours, we'll take it off the network. This is scary stuff.
But we do have to remember, though, that Twitter is a business, okay? So their stock is down.
Yeah.
They've lost 2 million users recently.
Thank God.
And so what do you do when you're a business that's like, we need to make more money? You look at the complaints, which are often, in this case, bullying and harassment, and then you try to appease those people who are complaining and try to get more people to come in. So Twitter is not some, model of morality. They are a business who's trying to make money, and this is their solution to their problem.
My problem with Twitter is I'm only on it when I'm drunk. And then the next day I wake up and I go, what in God's name have I done? And then I get to work and there's an email from somebody saying, we need to talk to you about something. Kat, my guess is that you get harassed all the time on Twitter, but I also guess that you probably deserve it.
I do get harassed all the time, but it doesn't bother me emotionally like people complain about, because, some people, they say, love comes from within. My self-hatred comes from within. It's got nothing to do with those people. And if the people can't handle being on Twitter, don't be on Twitter. Go play an acoustic guitar at a coffee shop in Brooklyn or Portland and, cry into your tea or whatever. But just get off of it, because you know what? It's not that big of a deal that I'm called a horrible slut every day. To me, it's fine. It's like, all right, whatever, your profile avatars of a dog.
Don't go anywhere. The return of Gregmail is next. It's going to be pure magic. Maybe.
It's time for Gregmail. The address is gregmail@foxnews.com. I read, he answers, then we play bocce in a pit of fire. Here we go. David leads things off. He asks, if someone was making a television drama about life at FNC, who would they get to play Greg's character?
That's actually a pretty good question. I would obviously like to play myself. because who could do a better job than me? But if I was not present, I would want to have this fella. There you go.
Ah, Lou.
Yeah, the Dobbs.
The Dobbs.
LD, as I like to call it.
That's an excellent choice.
And the lights
Great
go
casting.
out.
Next one is from Mark in Santa Fe, New Mexico. He writes, whenever I'm asked super salad at a restaurant, I never know which one to choose. Any advice?
Well, that's not your problem, Mark. Your problem is that you wrote into a TV show for an answer to this stupid question. Who do you write to for medical advice? Outnumbered? None of them are doctors.
They aren't.
None of them are doctors. All right. Quick program note. We're back next weekend on Sunday at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. Thanks to Steven Bauer, Tucker Carlson, Milo Yiannopoulos. Love saying that. Yiannopoulos. Joanne and Katherine. And a special thanks to the very tall models from Alloy Apparel for stopping by and giving the audience gift bags from Alloy. I'm Greg Gutfeld, and I love you, America, in a good way.